Okay, well, this next panel, I think, is probably one of the best panels of the next 3 days, because you're going to witness the secrets of some of the best founders that this country has produced. And what a better person to talk about this and to moderate this panel than an Irish expat that probably knows more about Spanish talent than a lot of people out there. I've had the pleasure of working with her at IE Business School. She then went on to bigger and better things, now an investor at Adara Ventures. Liz Fleming is probably an institution in this country, and today she's going to moderate 3 amazing individuals. We've got Meinrad Spenger, the CEO of MásMóvil. We've also got Juan de Antonio, the CEO of Cabify, and Kiki Sarasola, the CEO of Roommate Hotels. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Talent in Spain panel.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. Excited that you could join us for this opening discussion. Super exciting to hear about Revolt earlier. Amazing success story out of Europe. But it's not all about the US. It's not all about Silicon Valley. It's not all about London or Germany. Spain has also got incredible talent, which I think we're all very aware of. And I am absolutely honored to be here today and to have a conversation with 3 of the most talented entrepreneurs in the country, without a shadow of a doubt. We're going to have a little bit of a focus into how these guys have built these companies, what has been some of their secret success factors, what have been their challenges, and really about sharing ideas on how to scale. There's a lot of talk of Spain becoming a startup nation and making it more friendly for entrepreneurs, but let's see how we can make it more friendly for scale-ups also, and not just let those entrepreneurs start up, but also scale up to be globally competitive and compete internationally. So I'm thrilled to have Kike with us, founder and CEO of Roommate Hotels, already 24 hotels across 16 cities and growing at a rate of about 14 every 18 months, so knows about internationalization and scale. Meinrad Spenger, from CEO and founder of MásMóvil, an incredible success story in the telecommunications space. Muy valiente, I'm not sure how to even say it, very brave in English, no, to take on some of the larger players, and we hear a little bit about that. And of course, Juan de Antonio, who's founder and CEO of Cabify, our first unicorn out of the startup ecosystem in Spain. So really excited to have him here and want to learn about how we can continue to nurture more unicorns out of this ecosystem. So guys, thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure. Pleasure.
I'd love to kick off. Can you give us, we've had a brief introduction, but can you give us a little bit of backstory on your own businesses? Maybe just the early days, why you decided to embark on this journey, why this opportunity amongst millions of others opportunities when you could have set up a company? Why did you decide to operate in the sector and with the solution and opportunity that you saw at the time? So maybe give us an idea about the inspiration behind that.
Definitely. Okay, I'll go first. So Cabify was founded in 2011. We created the company with 2 goals. One, working on something that resonated with who we were. And number 2, do that surrounded by a group of people that we respected and we would be proud of. So what resonated with us, I was raised in between Madrid and a very small village in Segovia, close to the mountains, La Velilla. There are some people in the audience that know the village. And I had a conflict between concrete and trees. So I wanted more trees and less concrete in our cities. So that's why I thought that as opposed to owning vehicles, if we could share vehicles and we had less vehicles parked on the streets, we could make the city a better place. No? So that's how it resonated with who we were and why we got started. No?
Excellent. Meinrad?
Very good. Well, we created MásMóvil in 2006. MásMóvil is a telco operator. We offer mobile services as well as fixed and internet connection to our clients. We have around 6 million clients right now. And we started it basically because we saw that in the telco space there was an opportunity for more agile, more customer-oriented companies. And so we tried to provide good customer experiences from the beginning, and now we are leader in customer satisfaction with a very clear difference with the rest of the traditional operators. And that is our growth motor, no? Client first. And we combine this focus on client service with a strong push of digitization, meaning automation of all the interaction with the clients so that our clients can really manage all the services from the mobile phone.
Excellent, cool. Thanks. Kike.
Well, I think it was very interesting because we were talking behind the scenes, all of us, and it's something that we're all really client-based. I think each of us, our experience is really because we were client. In my case, I didn't find a hotel that I wanted to stay in. They were all very boring, very expensive, and if you wanted to be in a nice hotel, you had to pay a lot of money. So I said, why don't I find a nice hotel in the center of the cities at affordable prices with a good decoration? So that's how I started with my first a business, which was a 30-room hotel, and always thinking about the client. I think that's something that we have to really teach everybody, that forget about the rules, forget about everything, really listen to your client. No? And that's what I did. We started with hotels, now we went on to apartments, and now we're going into hostels, so it's all been a fun trip, and always having the client as the first person in your mind.
Cool, excellent. So they've kind of been somewhat personal motivations, I guess, in terms of trying to improve an experience that you maybe was suboptimal, that kind of inspired you to set up the companies. So that's quite exciting to see. And in terms of that journey, I mean, you've taken the companies very far on an individual level, all of you. What do you think are some of the key success factors? I mean, the idea, the inspiration, and the drive is great, and that's probably what makes you start. But how do you then compete? You're in 3 industries with massive different competitors competing and taking on the status quo of very established players as well. So what do you think have been some of the interesting success factors along the way that you just were able to embody better than the competition, or do better, or maybe unique skill set or unique insight within the founding team or the executive team that enabled you to compete, survive, and thrive, I guess?
It's an easy question, I guess. No, so and maybe I can speak to the failures that because we had many failures before reaching success, and even before Cabify, we tried to accomplish that same goal. I worked in an electric vehicle company before, and it was challenging. We found it was challenging for consumers to make a bigger upfront payment for a service that provided the same value as buying a car with a combustion engine. No? So it's all about the customer, as they said. If making a bigger payment for the asset wasn't a go, people didn't like that, we realized that maybe the solution was paying for the service as opposed to paying for the asset. No? So only pay for the vehicle when you are using it. And that's how we first got started. That was the first hint. Give the user what they really value, the usage of the vehicle, not the asset by itself. And of course, we had to iterate several times around that. In Spain, we got started with Mercedes E-Class because that was the only vehicle available. It was more expensive than a taxi. We also figured out that the consumer, the passenger, loved to pay less. And the moment we put a vehicle on the street with better quality than any other alternative and with a better price, that moved the needle, no? So it's about the user experience and the value you provide to the passenger, to the user.
Excellent.
Well, key success factor, I think, client focus. I mean, I cannot be too tough with the telecom industry because we have Cesar Larrieta here in the audience, so I have to be friendly. No, but in general, what was our experience? We have to think, we have been a startup, no money initially, and we have been competing with companies that invested 200 million euros a year in advertising. So the brand awareness of MásMóvil was 0, and the brand awareness of our competitors was very high. Actually, we have the leading 3 operators, European operators here in Spain, no? Telefónica, Vodafone, and Orange. So what we did is we tried to provide good customer service from the beginning so that our own clients would recommend us. And that facilitated our growth and still is in our ADN. Last year, with our premium brand, we invested around 11 million euros in advertising, whereas other operators with their second and third brand even invested more than we in our main brand. So that's our our strength and our asset.
Cool.
I think it's the same with us. I mean, I think it's, I found it in my sector, everything was sort of very boring, no? It was still very conventional, no new things were happening. And I think we're in that stage in the economy, and we're passing through incredible stages that everything is going to change. In 5 years' time, I think so many companies that are coming up are going to be huge, and such revolution is coming on that I think the old players were really slow to catch on to this. In my sector, for example, the hotel players didn't catch up to the rental apartments, for example. And yesterday, one of the biggest players who was against the rental apartments was Marriott. Marriott yesterday said publicly they are going into the rental apartment business. So it's really it's incredible that they've been fighting it for 4 years. Suddenly they realize that that's the way to go. So not only Marriott or Tusa, so many players that were really against it are changing. So I think we were one of the first ones to really see that that was going to happen, and I think our value was that we were faster than the rest.
Yeah, excellent. I guess speed and agility is what you all have in common in terms of trying to take on maybe incumbents or the status quo or larger players. In terms of, you both kind of mentioned different business models then as well. So there's speed, agility there's kind of continuous innovation and learning about the user experience, adapting to the market, and in that way being able to compete. What are the challenges and resistances you've seen there? I mean, you mentioned there, Kike, that the competition were maybe trying to take you down for a while in terms of rental apartments, or didn't see the opportunity, and now they're coming full circle. Maybe it's 3 or 4 years later, but
and
what
wasted so much time.
For sure. And it's how do you survive that desert though? You need to, as a startup company and a smaller company, you need to cross that chasm and survive and continue to innovate to keep ahead of the competition, I guess. So what are some of those challenges in terms of bringing, you started the company, you see an opportunity, you have customers, you're turning your customers into your ambassadors, but how are you breaking through those barriers of startup to scale up, starting to internationalize?
Well, first of all, try to convince the banks to lend money, which they don't. Most of the time, Mr. Alieta, most of the times, not always. But so it is true, it's very difficult. I think it's financing, no? Basically, to be able to keep that desert, go through the desert and waiting for the money to arrive, trying to convince investors, no? And then suddenly it is true that it just changes from one day to the other and all the numbers start to change. But I mean, I think it is just to survive and to really believe in your ideas, no? And have a good team to back you up. I don't know, what do you guys think?
I would like to elaborate on the last point. Besides financing, obviously MásMóvil grew during the crisis in Spain. No money available for startups, basically, and it's very good and very positive that it changed and that we created ecosystems like the South Summit. For me, I think the biggest challenge was to create a fantastic team. 12 years ago, everybody wanted to work in Telefonica. Nobody wanted to work in MásMóvil, no? And now we're in a situation that MásMóvil is part of the 100 companies, the most attractive for employees, and we have been nominated as company with most talent.
Right.
And so I think this is the basis of success, that we have a fantastic team that is hungry, that is motivated and passionate about our business.
But just to dive in a little bit there, if you don't mind, if it was challenging at the beginning, how did you nurture that? How were you attracting talent early on? How were you pulling people from more traditional companies?
Basically, we paid very little. We talked about a great project, and we did incentive plans for our employees so they could participate in the stock of the company. And it turned out to be the right decision for everybody. For us, we had no money, and for our team, because they earned good money with it.
It's more about a philosophy, no? I think we're at that age where you, more than convincing the young people to come and work with you for money, you have to convince them for your philosophy, no? Where you want to go, where you want to take their company. I think that is what really, in my case, for example, I have a fantastic team because they really got involved with my philosophy. They really saw my goal, my dream, and that's what made me big, is my team.
Cool, excellent. Juan,
I agree.
You haven't had any trouble in financing?
No. No, but I totally agree on having the team align on a mission and embrace it and have a purpose, and that's more valuable than anything else. We went through a lot of trouble from 2011 to 2015, The company almost died 5 times because of lack of financial resources. We were competing in an industry where our competitors had, they burn 10 times more cash every year than our revenues. So it's a huge difference, but that wasn't the most difficult part. What we realized pretty recently is that the most difficult part comes when you are successful and suddenly you start having an effect in society and you start to disrupt and become visible and suddenly you are an uncomfortable player. So it's kind of, it's not very coherent what we are seeing in our industry because we expect a technological revolution or an industrial revolution to be disruptive, and disruptive sometimes means that jobs transition from the old economy to the new economy. In our industry, jobs are not being destroyed. The taxi drivers continue to increase their revenues, and we are creating a lot of new employment that comes from people who had been left out of the normal economy. And despite that, we see a regulatory backlash, and we see the government issuing an anti-innovation, anti-employment decree that doesn't have a reason to exist. It's not protecting employment. That decree will destroy employment. So if that is happening in an industry where employment is being created, where value is being created, I'm scared of what might happen to other startups that are here once they grow up, once they mature. Because what the message we are sending out there is that in our case, the main difficulty has arisen once we become a big company. And
right.
we not only want small and medium companies, we also want big companies that appear in Spain and go to other markets.
Sure. Well, that's the point, right? In this type of ecosystem and tech entrepreneurship in particular, it's certainly not just about starting up, it's about scaling up and building these companies of huge impact that really feed back into the ecosystem. There's a lot of value created, a lot of wealth created, a lot of education, a lot of spin-outs created from big success stories. So I guess that really is the goal, and I think it's the goal of the community of South Summit as well. And so it is frustrating to hear that you find the challenges and most resistance when you actually start to make it, because I guess when you're smaller, they're like, oh, this is cute, they're innovating, this is nice, we support entrepreneurship. But then when you actually start to make an impact and disrupt, as you say, that there's huge resistance. And those be quite frustrating. I mean, have you guys experienced that as well? I mean, you're in the telecom space, the hotel industry, these are highly regulated markets and huge players, particularly here in Spain. Have you felt resistance from either regulation or competition, and how have you overcome that?
I think Juan has been very polite. And he should really say what we all think, which I believe that there should be regulation, but what we cannot have is a government or institutions that confuse regulation with prohibition. Prohibition is what we cannot accept. We are free market, we are new businesses, this is where we're going, this is the future where the economy is going, and what they cannot try and do is stop us by regulations, by stupid regulations. They cannot prohibit. In my world, for example, they have started with the hotel, as I said, with the apartment industry, and all the hotel lobby and political lobbies were against it, and now suddenly everybody's turning. But this momentum of trying to prohibit, it's making the whole economy go slower, and other countries which are doing it correctly, like Portugal is Lisbon with apartments, are going up like this, and we are completely stuck. And horrible things like prohibitions in Barcelona with all these things have just made the economy going down, and they don't realize that they've killed the golden goose or geese or however you call it. And for example, our numbers in Barcelona are completely terrifying, and it's going down the drain, and they don't realize that these prohibitions are making the economy go down. So I think we should all say it out loud, because we were all saying it behind. These regulations are terrible for the economy.
How do you turn the tide there? What can help? And particularly here in kind of a platform like South Summit, what can the ecosystem do to help? What kind of allies can you pull in to try and amplify your message, I guess?
Well, I think regulated sectors have a huge opportunity for entrepreneurs, because regulated players usually are slower, more bureaucratic. They have difficult to adapt to changing environments. I'll give you an example. We have invented the Cabify for our technicians. I don't know if you remember, we talked, I think, 2 years or 1.5 years ago, and I asked him, look, You have this app where the clients see the driver, where he is, what's his name, you can contact with the driver to coordinate. And in the telco business, we had the problem that if somebody ordered the internet for home, a fiber, the client had no clue when the technician would appear. So clients had to take vacation, to stay at home and wait and see. And so this was not a good client experience. What we did, we implemented what I call the Cabify for our technicians, meaning that our clients, when they order internet for their home, the fiber, they receive a link, they open it, and it's like an app, and they see the name of the technician that will come to install the fiber, the exact appointment date, and they can coordinate. Okay, I have to leave, I have to bring my child to the school, I'm not at home, could you come 15 minutes later, etc. And that improved a lot the experience of starting with Mass Mobile.
Yeah, excellent. So that's an interesting slant that you're saying there's actually huge opportunity in industries that are regulated, because I guess you guys can move a bit faster. And coming back to that again, just in terms of taking on the big players, going big or going home, winner takes it all. How do you, again, back to how do you think you're competing and even surviving, or not even surviving, thriving, doing a lot better than some of the incumbents? What is the reason for that? I mean, we talked about speed, maybe agility. Is there something around company culture and how you're attracting talent, or how you're able to see different opportunities in the user experience? What is the difference that enables you to compete with some of the larger players, which logic would tell you, these guys, they have the resources, they have the funds, they surely have the talent as well. Can they not just eat us up?
You guys.
For me, it's quite clear. I mean, in the telco space, you have to understand a bit the history, especially in mobile telephony. Between 2000 and 2005 in Spain, everybody wanted a mobile phone. So telco operators were not forced to provide great client experience because they knew that the clients will come anyway. We grew up with a different gene. In our ADN is great client experience, and it might sound very obvious, but for us it's much easier. We have little legacy in IT, little legacy in HR, little legacy in old networks. So we have the best systems, the best networks. We have just been, and that's quite interesting for being a challenger. We have been nominated as the player with the best fiber experience in Spain. And why is that? Because we dimensioned our network accordingly. We have the best IT systems. We have the least delay from connecting at home to opening up the web pages. So it's client focused, and it's easier for us because we have less history that would hinder or delay changes.
Okay.
In my case, you know what made the difference? I think made the difference with my competitors is in Roommate, we smile. I think in Spain we've forgotten to smile. It's free, and if somebody doesn't smile, they can go work in Rio, not in my company.
Excellent.
In Cabify, despite what people might think, our main competitor is the private vehicle ownership, and how we differentiate is, I mean, it's really inconvenient to own a vehicle in a city. Nobody talks about this, but basically if you're beyond 18, when you can extract the maximum value of owning a vehicle, especially during weekends, once you are 30, 35, owning a vehicle only gives you bad news. I have to change the oil, I have to change the tires, I have this parking ticket. It's only bad news. So, I mean, it was really simple to provide value beyond that. No?
Yeah, excellent. Interesting change in kind of consumer behavior as well, I guess.
And for us, maybe another thing I would like to add. For us, in the telco space, there was little cooperation between the operators before. What we do, we try to collaborate with everybody. So we have agreements with Telefónica, Vodafone, Orange in Spain, because we contribute. We contribute to the results, and I think there's a common understanding that it's more efficient to co-invest, to have it in one home, not 4 cables, but 1 cable, because it's enough to provide a great service. And if the Client wants to change operator, well, he maintains the infrastructure, but he changes the service, no, the operator. So that's what we try to do, no? It's like this cooperation, no? It's competition, but it's also collaboration.
Excellent, cool, spot on. Trying to, I suppose, share with the audience just learnings around the scaling up phase. And can you talk a little bit about the success factors in your growth strategy? Or all the companies have grown in very different ways, I guess, through either acquisitions or internationalization. How did that work out for you guys? When was the point to kind of decide this is our growth strategy? MassMobile has a multi-brand strategy as well, which is quite interesting. How did you guys think about that in terms of, you know, we need to compete now internationally? How do we do it?
For example, since the beginning, when I did my first hotel, and they were saying, "What do you know of hotels? You come from the sports world." And I said, "How are you going to do your first hotel outside of Madrid?" And I'm working, and how are you going to do? And I said, "Listen, for me, I went international. When I went out of Madrid, for me, it's the same thing. Open a hotel in Barcelona, in Rome, or New York." And if you think about it, nowadays, when they ask that question, what do you think about internationalization? I think, my God, can they still be asking that question to me? Nowadays, when we are completely global, if you don't think global, you're being stupid.
Yep.
I mean, I thought since the beginning, I thought I had to be global, and it was the same thing to open a hotel in Barcelona, in Paris, or New York. And luckily, that's what made us be able to go through the big crisis, because, for example, when Spain struck the big crisis, my American hotels were going incredibly well. So the other hoteliers, for example, who stayed only in Spain, well, they suffered much more than I did, and I'm still here and growing.
Excellent, yeah, diversification, cool.
So I would say the strategy for internationalization depends on the industry. Probably in the telco industry, where you have to invest a lot in infrastructure, is more challenging, or licenses or whatever, it's more challenging to expand internationally, and you need to grow market share within the market. In our case, I mean, we got started in Spain in 2011. We realized there was an advantage in having size beyond our market, and we expanded to Latin America in 2012. Then we had to find the right balance with the right amount of resources. You need to make sure you don't spread yourself too thin, no? We made that mistake a couple of times. So we grew across Latin America. In some markets, we have a leadership position. In other markets, we are number 2. One of the challenges of operating or starting a company, a technology company in Europe, is that we don't have a big cohesive market. Every country within Europe has its own rules. So it's challenging to grow. It's not like the US, where you have a huge market, or China. No? So for us, if we are a technology company and you don't have to make huge investments in local infrastructure, going international is a must.
Excellent.
Well, we have a different strategy. I mean, we have a strong focus still on Spain, because it's an infrastructure-heavy industry where you have to have a lot of investment to be able to compete at same terms. We have our strategies basically based on digitization, automation, in sense of improving the quality of service for our clients, obviously also to be more efficient. And on the other hand, you mentioned we have 4 brands: one premium brand, one value for money brand, one digital brand, and one brand for foreigners. And that makes our growth very sustainable, because it's difficult to attack us in all the different positionings. We are in general working on creating value for the sector. We are not a price fighter. Actually, with all these promotions that we had in September, probably we have been the most expensive operator in Spain. But so that's our logic. We create value for the sector, value for our clients, and predictability. Many of our clients complain because their bill amount changes a lot each month. We give them stability, and it works.
Excellent, yeah, surely something's working right, so very different strategies there. And sorry, I mentioned earlier, Cabify is our only unicorn, but of course MassMobile is $1 billion company as well in a short space of time. So we have 2 billion-dollar companies up here, a huge international brand. Just as parting words as we wrap up, what would be your final thoughts to entrepreneurs out there who are maybe already started up, getting their first couple of million in revenue, struggling to break through those scale barriers? What would be words of support or things to think about for the next generation to make sure that we have more startups of scale coming out of Spain?
I mean, being a Spaniard, I would recommend everyone to forget about the unicorns. Unicorns don't exist. We should instead try to become cabras montesas, so mountain goats. They have 2 horns, so I guess that's 2 billion, so let's aim high and go for it.
Excellent. Thanks.
Now,
Brilliant.
you make it more difficult for me now. No, persistency, surround yourself with good persons, not only good professionals, but also persons that want good for you, and hire a good CFO. It's very important.
Right.
I think that for all the young people who are starting, I think they should just realize that yes, you can do it. Follow your dreams, surround yourself by a good team, and go for it. It's so much fun to be an entrepreneur, and it's so challenging and so demanding, but I tell you, it's really worth it, and it's your life dream, so go for it.
Excellent. Folks, appreciate a big warm round of applause for Kike, Manny, and Antonio. Thanks, guys.